What's going on, nerds? Welcome back to the Comic Book Nerd Nation, episode number 42. I'm Fox2. We got Pirate,
Hey guys.
Topher,
42. That's
42.
awesome.
And the whole F and Brian wasn't able to make it today. He's got some stuff going on, so he's here in spirit. Let's start out with what you've been reading. Let's talk to Topher.
Oh boy, starting with me. Wow. So I've been on a couple weeks, so I'm pretty much going to have to give a reading list for the entire last month. Man, I've been reading a bunch of stuff. Pretty much all Marvel. Not that I'm sure somebody's going to be surprised by that, but I'm still trying to catch up on stuff, that I've been collecting for the last couple of years. So I'm basically going through all the Marvel Now titles that launched about almost 2 years ago now, a year and a half, beginning of 2013. There's been some really good ones, a couple okay ones. A couple of the Avengers series were all right while they were still trying to shuffle some writers around. Some of my favorite ones so far were, let's see here, Thor, the new Thor series by Jason Aaron, who he's still the writer. That's the current series that's going to have Thor be the woman here soon. That one started out really strong. I read the first 12 issues straight of it because it was really good. The artwork's cool. It's just really well written, and it's kind of like, at least this first couple story arcs. Basically, Thor is going up against it's cool because they show him at 3 different times throughout his life. He finds another god that's been slaughtered, basically, and it reminds him of something that happened, back in the 900s or whatever here on Earth, back in Viking days, and so they show a flashback of him fighting this guy known as the God Butcher, and then. And he kind of, he thinks he's won, but it's a really brutal fight, and then you find out, that the God Butcher isn't actually dead, and then they show fast forward in the future several thousand years, and there's an old Thor who looks more like Odin than Thor now, and he's basically the only god left on a desolate Asgard, and he he's still battling this God Butcher who's basically gone, taken over Asgard and gone throughout the cosmos, killing gods all over the place. And so it's kind of cool because the God Butcher's trying to build, he's basically trying to kill all the gods of every planet and every throughout time as well. And so you have this interesting crossover where these 3, future, past, and present Thor, are all kind of doing things in parallel and then come together and actually actually meet each other, when the time stream kind of collapses. And it's pretty interesting. The art and the writing are just they're done in a very epic way. It doesn't look like your traditional superhero tale, or it's costume people running around New York saving people or whatnot. It's written as this very somber epic, and it's done really super well. So that one's been really good. On a less serious note, the current Deadpool series is fantastic. I don't know if any of you have read any of that. Have you guys read?
Very little.
I've read up to 20. I read up to 27, his wedding issue, and then I stopped reading it for whatever reason. I can't remember. Or 20, no, I read up to 29.
I read the first few arcs, and it's they're pretty hilarious. Like Brian Posehn is the writer. He's a comedian, and it's it's very lighthearted, but it's very funny, and it's just like off the wall craziness. Basically, the first story arc in that comic is there's a there's a amateur necromancer who decides that the country is going off the rails, and to bring us back to what made America great, he's going to raise the original dead presidents from the grave, and have them come back and whip this country into shape. Except he raises them from the dead, and they all turn out to be evil, soulless monsters. And so Deadpool has to like Shield's basically looking for someone to under the radar handle this, because it's bad press to have Captain America taking off George Washington's head with his shield. So they're like, we need somebody who can get their hands dirty, and that we can like disavow. And they're like, oh, we'll get Deadpool. So Deadpool has to go around and battle all these dead presidents while they're trying to take over the country. And there's just so many jokes and references to like different things about the presidents, and they actually like mention like every single freaking president by name. It's it's almost funny, because like there's like almost a history lesson at the same time, and it's just set against the backdrop of Deadpool. It's just it works really well. Let's see here.
Did you read the Shield versus Deadpool?
No, I haven't gotten that far.
That one was pretty good. And it's funny because it came out before Winter Soldier. Then after it, like I was like, why would Deadpool be fighting Shield? Then all of a sudden, it's like, wow, they really Shield can be bad.
Deadpool's another one of those characters that lately has been getting bad rap sometimes because of overexposure. They're like, oh my god, Deadpool's in everything. Like everybody tries to make everything funny. Let's throw in Deadpool. But I mean, this being his core title, like it is really good. It's very solid. I definitely recommend it, and I mean it's fun, and it's very well written, and it's not just like Deadpool for the sake of Deadpool. It's done really well.
Did you have you got to the good, the bad, the ugly, or was it the good, the bad, the ugly?
Yeah, that's the
with Captain America and Wolverine. No, that's coming up next, actually.
Okay.
Anyway. But let's see here. So another one I read was Uncanny Avengers, and this was one that I was like, oh my god, another Avengers title. Like I thought I was gonna skip this one, and then I found out that basically after Avengers versus X-Men, Captain America decides that that the Avengers and he in particular have not done enough to help the mutant cause over the years, and so he decides that he's going to change that by forming a new team of Avengers that is comprised half of mutants and is actually led by an X-Man. So he gets Havoc, Cyclops' brother, to to lead a unit, and the first big enemy in this is the Red Skull, and so some of the there's a big crossover coming up here called Axis that has the Avengers and X-Men all working together to take down Red Skull, and they showed him in the Onslaught armor, and and it's kind of cool because it starts in this Uncanny Avengers run where basically if you haven't read Avengers versus X-Men, there's a spoiler here, but at the end Professor Xavier dies. Cyclops, and actually while possessed by the Phoenix Force, ends up killing him, and and as Xavier tries to stop him, and he succeeds, but in the process he's killed by Cyclops. So so in the aftermath of all that, Red Skull actually steals Charles Xavier's body and cuts out his brain and grafts it onto his own. So now Red Skull has the powers of telepathy and all of
Wow.
Professor X's telepathic abilities, and so that makes him pretty freaking terrifying at that point because he was already a pretty big deal before. And then if you guys remember the whole Onslaught thing years ago, when was that? Like mid '90s, I guess. In the mid '90s. There's a storyline, I think it comes out of Fatal Attractions, where Magneto basically rips all the adamantium out of Wolverine. Well, Professor X gets so pissed off at Magneto, that he basically, telepathically just shuts down his brain. And
Is that when they had Broken Claw Wolverine at one point? The same series?
It's when he goes around with the bone claws for a while after that.
Yeah.
Well, Professor X gets pissed off and actually fucking just melts Magneto's brain. But out of that you get this, dark use of his ability, coupled with, Professor Xavier's insane telepathic abilities and Magneto's psyche, the two combine and form this psychic entity called Onslaught that was this giant hulking persona, and it looked like Magneto armor only turned into almost a it looked like a set of Stark armor only designed around Magneto, and it was it wasn't very well critically received, the series back there, but everyone who read it at the time is always like, oh yeah, I love that story. So they're actually now they're gonna revisit the whole Onslaught concept now with with Red Skull having Professor X's brain, and so Onslaught Red Skull here is gonna be the big bad guy for this next big crossover, which looks pretty cool to me. But and then I'll cover one more here. The other one I read was Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, and if you guys have read any of that, it's really good. I've never really been a fan of Hawkeye. I could care less. He's he doesn't have any special abilities. I never really particularly identified with the character or anything. Hawkeye was always just kind of there. He was just on the team, and I didn't give a crap about him as an individual. So I wasn't sure whether to read this book or not, but I thought I'd give it a try because it got really good reviews, and a lot of people have said this is a really great series, and so I started reading it, and basically it's about Hawkeye in his personal life when he's not busy being an Avenger.
Oh,
and
I
so
think
it's kind
you
of
told us about this. I think you were
Did I?
telling us about this 2 episodes ago or something like that.
I think I mentioned it at one point because I read the first issue, but now I've read a lot more than that, and it's still really good. He basically they show him moving into his apartment in New York, and he's just walking around the city, and it has a really different feel to it. The art is a little more casual, and he's never in costume. He's always he's it's him as a normal guy, and yet he's still doing heroic things. It's not all about sure, there's some action, and there's still lots of bows and arrows here and there, but it's not him going and fighting supervillains and this and that. It's it's how someone who's an Avenger and a normal human being in their off time tackles everyday life and still manages to be a hero to the people around him, and it's super well done, and there's just this I can't even explain it, just the tone. It's almost like watching an old movie that takes place in New York, and not in downtown, but just in a quiet, sleepy borough of New York, and it's a very personal story, and there's almost like this, like this quiet, that the sense of quiet when you're reading the book. Like, instead of like all these action scenes and big, giant battles with superheroes yelling at each other, there's you can almost just close your eyes and hear like the sounds of like the city in the background, like, and as you're reading it, and it's it's a it's a really good read. I definitely recommend that one too.
Right on. What about you, Pirate? What have you been reading?
I have not read anything as in depth as Chris has
Good
there.
luck. Good luck following up that.
Yeah, that was. Damn, that's one hell of a week you had.
Well, like I said, that's pretty much the last month for me because I haven't got to give an update here in a while.
Speaking of overexposure of Deadpool, I've read some Deadpool. Cable and Deadpool series. That one's okay. I like it, but it's one of those books. It's kind of like a TV show that is where you watch an episode and nothing really eventful seems to happen, and then you read, the follow-up episode is like, oh wow, that was really cool. Kind of like has that feel to it. At least where I'm at right now, I'm in the maybe early teens of episodes, issues.
Is that the series from like what, like, I don't know, 2000-ish or something?
2008, I think it was. It was.
Okay.
It was. Yeah. It starts off with there's like a cult trying to get Deadpool to join them, and he ends up joining them, and they like dye their skin blue or something like that. It's pretty comical. And Cable tries to get him out of it. He's trying to infiltrate the cult, and then they end up kind of snowballing into this like team partner in crime type thing, sort of. I would very loosely partner type thing. Anyways, yeah, it's not bad. And then read a couple Punishers again, Volume 2 series, stuff from the 80s. And then it's mostly been, for me, it's all about, like, I'm pretty behind on the curve with Breaking Bad. So I've been on this huge Breaking Bad marathon to watch it, and I finally finished it 2 or 3 days ago, 2 days ago. So
Nice.
fucking
That was
awesome
an
show.
Awesome show.
I love that show.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love that show?
Dude, you know what? Like, I started to watch it, not like a couple years ago, and it was before. Well, I would say a couple years. It was before the 5th season came out, and I started to watch it. Got about 4 episodes into it, and it got to the scene where they melt the guy in the bathtub. And
Yeah.
for whatever reason, I just lost the interest in that show. I was like, eh. And then I picked up back from there, and I was just like,
It
holy
gets
shit,
way
dude.
better after that, though.
Oh yeah, dude! Like the character development in that show was
Yeah,
just
you really got to make it through
mind-boggling.
like the first season to get to the good stuff, I think.
yeah. Once he starts, you start seeing his like bipolar, like character kick in, where it's like goes from Walter White to Heisenberg.
Yeah.
This gets amazing.
I don't know of anybody who's watched that show and be like, oh no, I hate that show. Like,
I don't think I've.
Everybody I've ever talked to about it, they're like, oh man, it's like it turns into a fucking, 20, 30-minute conversation about the show.
Yeah,
It's fucking awesome.
it is an awesome show. My reading list this week is actually fairly large. I was a few weeks behind on some new stuff, so I did some catching up. Savage Hulk #3, which is a pretty interesting. It's a 4-issue miniseries. Right now, basically, Jean Grey has become the Hulk.
what?
So it's fairly interesting storyline. You would probably really enjoy it, Topher.
I've been buying them. I've read the first 2, I
It's
think.
pretty
I haven't
good.
read the third one yet.
It's pretty good. I also read the new Batgirl, the 3D cover, the one shot. That's like a Future's End type of deal. And the premise of this book was that Barbara Gordon was getting married, and her brother shows up and basically forces the husband, like shows up to the wedding and forces the groom to jump off the building by saying, like, either you jump off the top of it was like on top of a building for whatever reason. It was where they were getting married, but he said, like, either you jump off this building or I'm going to shoot her. So he threatened to shoot his sister, and so the groom jumped off the building and died. And long story short, like, it just sent Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, into this, like, psychotic, like, frenzy where she, like, went off the radar completely, and, like, she ended up, like, hunting down all the criminal masterminds, and she ended up taking down, like, the Riddler and Penguin, and she ended up training with Bane to try and infiltrate his organization, and then, like, it shows, like, how she ends up taking down Bane in the end.
Yeah,
so
her brother's kind of a sociopath.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Did that just come out this week or this past week?
Yeah, that just came out this past week.
Okay, because I hadn't seen that one yet, but I haven't been to the store yet.
Last
week.
I don't think they have any more there. Actually,
of course not.
Of that one, they might have the not 3D cover.
Right.
So, I mean, the store is still there, obviously.
What's cool about that is they're going to have all digital 3D covers too. All this that they're doing
really
that with
the digital 3D cover.
Yeah, they're having it all. They did something like they was talking about it like months ago. Like when Futures End first came out, they're doing digital. Like the digital books you can get them in 3D covers.
Is it like a Magic Eye poster that you?
Yeah, you gotta like cross your eyes and shit.
I don't know.
You like
they showed pictures of it. They're pretty bad. They're pretty crazy.
I think I see it. Yeah, it's a bat. I think.
Oh no, a microphone. I was way off.
It was way off. Another thing that I read, I caught back up on Batman Eternal, which has gone from good to even better. As of now,
I need to read that.
Huh?
I need to read that. I've got them all sitting in a stack
It
over
has
here.
really gotten really good. As of now, like, it's taken you through a lot of twists and turns trying to figure out who, like, the main villain is. And it looks like that's finally been established as Hush, which is an awesome character. I don't know if either of you guys have ever read Batman Hush.
No, I'm still waiting for you to bring it in and lend it to me.
Oh, yeah, I can bring that in sometime.
Fox is pretty bad about bringing things in to lend them to people.
Yeah. Pirate likes to complain about stuff.
Don't we all?
I like to complain about stuff.
So
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Anyway, Batman Eternal is awesome. Sinestro, the new Sinestro.
Oh, I need to read those.
Is
I haven't read
probably
any
my
past
How's that
favorite
series going?
It's amazing.
It looks really interesting. Like
incredible. I think it's
I
going to
almost
be.
considered reading that one.
I think
the first two were fucking amazing. Like I loved it.
I think
I haven't
it's
read
going to
anything
be
after it though.
the focal point for the big crossover event in the Lantern universe. I think it's going to revolve around Sinestro because of what happened in this last week. This last week, spoilers. This last episode, or actually, I guess it might be a couple weeks old now, but basically, you've learned that when Sinestro was one with Parallax and killed the Guardians, he like disappeared afterwards, and you were led to believe that he purged himself of Parallax, and that like kind of made him lose his will to be to have a power ring and everything like that. But then you end up finding out that he didn't purge Parallax out of himself. He actually learned how to control Parallax. So in the final pages of the book, he actually unleashes Parallax from within himself to like pin down and hurt Hal Jordan, and then recalls Parallax before killing Hal Jordan to prove that he has complete and utter control over the entity. So
wow.
basically Sinestro is the baddest dude in the Lantern universe right now. So
he's like Leroy Brown.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that.
I'm pretty interested to see where that storyline goes. And then the other one that I'm surprised wasn't on your list, Topher, was Death of Wolverine 1 and 2.
I I I got it, but I'm trying to catch up on everything else so that I can read it with like the
Yeah.
whole lead up. So I've been avoiding it until I'm current.
It's I won't say too much about like what is happening in it, but it's really good. I don't read X-Men. I don't read a whole lot of Marvel stuff other than like Hulk stuff. But it's really good. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I can't wait till next week. The third issue comes out, so it's a badass title for sure. If you guys are even remotely interested in it, I would definitely pick it up for the read, for sure. So that being said, that's all that I have. That's everything that I read. Let's jump over to news and start talking news. Let's start, Pirate. You mentioned something about a possible Teen Titans or Titans TV show.
Yeah, TNT. Let me pull up the exact, because there's a TNT is looking to have their own. I guess with all the success and possible future success that the DC universe is bringing to television, TNT decided to jump on board and air a show called Titans, which is based on the young superheroes of DC. Let me see here. I don't know if it's actually been greenlit yet. I think they're still in final stages of licensing, or not licensing, but being authorized to use licensed characters.
I think DC's spearheading it. I don't know if it's a done deal yet, but I'm pretty sure that DC
It's
has
Warner
said,
Brothers.
yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, Warner Brothers is actually doing it. So is developing a Titans television series and is in talks with cable network TNT to air it.
Right.
So,
Oh, wow.
which if Warner Brothers does it, if TNT doesn't do it, anybody will do it. I mean,
Somebody
if
will
Warner
pick it up.
Brothers, I mean, shit, they're doing the movies, which
Well, Warner Brothers owns DC, don't they?
Yes.
yeah, they own DC, and there's actually, there's somebody said that Warner Brothers may be, was it selling? Oh yeah, there was talks of selling the DC franchise, and that Disney was
Yeah, I
looking.
told you that on a
Yeah,
episode,
yeah, it
a
was okay.
handful of
What?
episodes ago. Yeah, there was a gosh, let me see if I can remember this.
I hadn't heard this one.
There was a company out of somewhere in Japan, I believe, that had. Ah, man, I wish I could remember the exact details. But basically, the premise of it was that there was an offer on the table to purchase Warner Brothers, but the company that had the offer in retracted the offer, which means and there were other interested parties as well. So the fact that Warner Brothers was even entertaining this initial offer means that leads people to believe that it was possible to happen, that there could be a sale of Warner Brothers. Well, one of the other leading interested parties was Disney, which would mean if Disney purchased Warner Brothers, technically Disney would own Marvel and DC, and you could have like one master universe of Marvel and DC together. Potentially, I said I don't think that's a good idea, personally.
I don't either. Like, it sounds cool. Like the possibility that would have there, where you could have they'd actually do some crossovers.
They would do it
and-
too
and
much, though, would be
you
my
could
problem.
see those characters interacting well, yeah, but I mean that could make for years of storylines. I mean there could be a lot of really cool stuff that comes out of that. At the same time, though, I think it's bad for the industry. You've got the big two basically, and everyone else is pretty far behind in terms of sales. I mean, Dark Horse and Image and IDW, and they're all fantastic companies. But in terms of sheer number of titles and number of sales and whatnot, I mean, DC and Marvel are just they're at the top by a pretty big margin. And if you put them under the same umbrella, it's almost like creating a monopoly for the big comics industry, and I don't think it's good, because you've got creators who sometimes work better at one or the other, and there's competition there. If you don't have another major competitor at that level, I think it would be bad for for the business. It would be bad for the writers and the artists, who would only have one option that would be able to basically control everything for them. So
when we talked about it before, my issue that I draw with it would be that because of the fact that people think it would be so awesome to see, Batman and Spider-Man team up, or, you know what I'm saying, like Superman and the X-Men, or whatever, you know what I mean? Because of that, they would do it once and it would clearly be extremely popular, but they'd be like, damn, that's the recipe for success. So then every last thing would be something Marvel and something DC together. So you would really lose the individual, like, there wouldn't be Batman stories anymore. It would be Batman and this Marvel character. It would be Superman and this Marvel character, or it would be the X-Men and this DC character, and it would just muddle everything together so badly that they would be doing it for number. It would be easy for them to slide into doing it sheerly for the numbers, not so much for the quality of the story.
I think the novelty of that would wear off, fairly quickly, and at that point, if you're not telling good stories, that the titles are still going to go away. But you are probably more likely to lose some of the fringe titles that people really like, just so you can have the Disney team up issues. But that being said, Batman, Spider-Man. We had an episode a long time ago where we talked about like what our favorite.
Yeah, I think so.
What our fantasy team up would be if we could pair a DC and a Marvel, and I'm pretty sure mine was Batman and Spider-Man, because that would be amazing.
In other news as well, this December there's going to be a 4-issue miniseries that I am personally extremely excited about. It's going to be written by Jim Starlin.
It's coming out of Savage Hulk. It's actually going to be a follow-up to Savage Hulk.
Thanos versus Hulk.
Oh, wow.
Which
you know what? Yeah,
I did
see some news flashing about that. Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited for that. Yeah, it's supposed to spin out of the Savage Hulk series somehow, but I don't. Seeing that the Savage Hulk series is already 3 out of 4 issues done, and we haven't even directed anything towards Thanos as of yet, I don't know. We'll have to.
Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's not necessarily a true in-universe spinoff. Maybe it's just Jim Starlin's next Hulk project, kind of like all the little the Deadpool side series, like Night of the Living Deadpool, and Deadpool
that's kind of what I was thinking it would be.
Deadpool versus X-Force. It's been a series of titles where they're not all out at once, but when one ends, they do another title. So it's probably that. But I mean, Starlin created Thanos, and he always, he was he created the whole Infinity Gauntlet thing, and so I mean, Thanos is his baby. So I'm kind of interested to see what he does with Hulk and Thanos.
What I'd really like to see, obviously, I'm going to get the comics, and I'm excited about that. But what I'd really think would be awesome is if that series ended up being very popular, and then they develop a statue, like a collectible statue of Hulk and
sick.
Thanos fighting. That would be
You
a
better
piece
start
that
saving up. Man.
I would
I was
easily
going to
pay,
say,
I would
yeah,
easily
that's
pay hundreds for something like that, though. That would be
I
for sure.
I sent Fox a link a couple weeks ago to an amazing statue
Oh yeah,
of
just wildly overpriced.
it was King Hulk from the Planet Hulk series, and oh my god, one of the most best detailed, like just badass statue. This thing was awesome, and it was like what? It was like $400 or $500
Yeah, it's
or
like
something like that.
$500.
Yeah, like ridiculous.
Absolutely
what do you think
overpriced.
What do you think a Thanos and Hulk statue is going to be? That's going to be a pretty big fucking statue.
Oh yeah,
That's
it
gonna
would.
be a
It
pretty
would
big price tag.
yeah, absolutely. It would be
Sheer
a huge
bulk of
price tag.
material.
I would be more willing to pay
Like,
something close
the
to
weight-
$400 for that than I would just for a singular like King Hulk statue.
Yeah.
The weight cost to ship that thing.
Oh my
Oh, yeah.
god, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be like a
find a
25-pound
place-
statue.
Pretty shit.
Yeah. So yeah,
That would be a big
I'm
fucking-
looking forward. I'm looking forward to that. So obviously, I'm sure we'll cover that probably in detail when it happens. Now on to
Speaking of a couple new series that are coming out, you know, the I mentioned earlier, Thor becoming a woman. You know, that's
is that
coming
not
up.
out yet? I thought that was out
It's
already.
not out yet. No, I think it's in October that comes out. But I've got a theory about who it might be. They showed, you know, I was telling you about the you know, the whole God Butcher story that Jason Aaron started off with. When you see future King Thor, he's got 3 granddaughters who have been kidnapped by the God Butcher, along with all the other gods, and they're all like, you know, enslaved on this one planet, and you know, not like kidnapped in the, you know, like tied her up and, you know, he has to come save her kind of. It's almost like if you've seen Conan, you know, the Conan the Barbarian movies, you know how they've got like, you know, they get all these, you know, enslave all these people and have them do all the work to, you know, to build their shit. You know, it's basically he's enslaved all these gods from all over the cosmos. But future Thor, he's got 3 granddaughters, and one of them is a blonde who has, you know, who has inherited some of, you know, Thor's, you know, God of Thunder powers. And so to me it seems like she could be a shoe-in here for
I was
for
just
that,
reading
so.
something that said that that you're probably going to see some glimpses into who is going to be the female Thor in the next issue of Thor: God of Thunder. So
my
here
money's
comes-
on Thor's own future granddaughter. I think her
Yeah,
name was
They mentioned
Frigga.
them as
Yeah.
looks like future King Thor doesn't want his granddaughters to know about the woman who once replaced him.
Oh.
So-
Okay, well maybe not then.
So maybe
Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe, I don't know. Or that could be pointing to the fact that he doesn't want them to know that one of them did at one point replace him.
That could be.
So
But-
You know what? I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that it's early in the morning and I'm tired. But every time you guys are talking about this, the only thing going through my head right now is AC/DC, the Angus Young, that, and then it's like thunder, granddaughter, thunder. Like, I don't know why. Like, I was born, and it's got here a long time ago. Something like, you know what I mean?
Okay, was that air guitar, or were you really excited about that?
I was really excited, dude. Couldn't you tell?
So you mentioned, you know, the death of Wolverine before, and comics that are going to be spinning out of it. So I wasn't sure how I felt about this first, so I want to hear your guys' reaction. I don't know if you've heard this, but, you know, so there's a Wolverine in the X-Men series, right, where Wolverine runs the Jean Grey school. You know, he and Wolverine have their schism, their difference of opinion, they split. He goes back to New York and founds a new school. And so that's what the Wolverine in the X-Men series is. It's all about, you know, like, you know, the younger X-Men students. So when Wolverine dies, they decided that Wolverine and the X-Men is kind of a bad title for a comic anymore since he's not going to be around. So that series is going to become, wait for it, Spider-Man and the X-Men.
What?
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 Spider-Man and the X-Men.
Is Spider-Man, I guess, taking over for Wolverine as head teacher
So-
or something?
So at first,
Could you imagine if Peter Parker is your principal?
you cannot imagine my backlash when I first heard this. I was like, "What? You gotta be kidding!" You know, like I'm out.
Why
Fuck
did
it.
they pick a different X-Men character?
Okay, so I in my initial reaction was, damn it, they do this every single freaking time. Like, why won't they give an X-Man like a leading role in something and like bring one of them to the forefront? Like, why is it they have to bring in somebody else from some other comic, some other bigger star? It's like Wolverine was too ubiquitous, so let's kill him off and put Spider-Man in. Like, how
does
is that
meta
better?
human become leader of mutants?
Yeah,
That's what I don't understand. Like, he
and-
doesn't,
and
he's not
I
even
was-
a mutant.
I was a buddy of mine told me about this, and I probably like ranted for a good 10 minutes about like what the hell is Marvel just throwing all their let's see here, X-Men, Spider-Man, who else don't we have the movie rights to? We'll just throw them all in this book, and I was pretty irritated at first. I'm like God damn it, it's an X-Men title, not the freaking.
So you're saying the Fantastic
Spider-Man.
Four will be in there then?
Right? Yeah. Reed Richards in the X-Men. That'd be a terrible book.
That would be real bad. Oh man.
So I guess, but I thought about it a little bit more, and I guess the
Still think
concept
it's
here.
terrible.
No, now I'm actually kind of excited for it. Now I really want to read it. I guess the concept is he's not going to be the principal. He's going to be there as a guidance counselor, and apparently
How does he Go ahead.
No, hold on. So he's going to be there as a guidance counselor, and apparently it's like part of a dying wish from Wolverine that he goes there, and I kind of had to laugh at this because if you've read any of like the Avengers stuff, in the last couple of years where Wolverine and Spider-Man are both on the same team, every single time like they mention. Spider-Man goes when they first mentioned it. Spider-Man's like, "Wait, Wolverine runs a school? Wolverine, a school? Really? Does no one else think that's not okay?" And like every single time they mention the school, Spider-Man always throws in a comment like, "I still can't believe Wolverine has a school." And so it's kind of like this running joke where. Spider-Man's always ribbing Wolverine for having a school and having to teach children and whatnot, and so I kind of had to giggle at that and think maybe this is like a parting shot on Wolverine's part where he's like, you know what, here, like dying wish, I want you to go. I want you to go work at my school. It's kind of like a revenge for all the comments kind of thing, and apparently like I guess I read a little description synopsis of it, and I guess the X-Men are all wondering why he's there, and they're all not happy about the fact that that Spider-Man is there, and so like I thought it was going to be like, oh yay, Spider-Man kind of thing, and that was why I was pissed originally, but apparently like all the X-Men hate that he's there too, so it could actually be kind of interesting. It's not that Spider-Man, that they hate Spider-Man, he's a good dude, it's just that he's not a mutant and he's not one of the family, so it's like, why are you here? And so he's trying to honor Wolverine's dying wish, and they're all kind of resentful that he's there. So he's kind of being like a guidance counselor, and so after thinking about it for a little bit, I love Spider-Man, but I never read him because I always like him better on a team. I've always liked Spider-Man better when he's with somebody else, making comments about somebody else's stuff. His solo stuff is decent, but I've always felt that Spider-Man really shines when he's making quips in the middle of other people's shit. So I having him team up with the X-Men and make comments about, I don't know, like now I'm actually kind of geeking out over it, and I think it's going to be really cool.
Right on. I probably won't read that.
I'll let you know how it is.
Yeah, I'll just wait for you to let me know how that goes.
Okay, so on to the big topic of the week. Brian's not here to chime in with his extremely polarized opinions about the matter, but so be it, I guess. New Batmobile pictures from the set of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice were released. What are your guys' thoughts about the Batmobile? We'll start
I think it
with
looks
you,
awesome.
Pirate.
I think it looks awesome. I don't care. Like, I mean, I know Brian was like, it's got machine guns. It's a tumbler.
So does the Batmobile in
Every Batmobile that's been in the big screen has had guns.
yes,
Every one.
and the
And then
one
he
in
said there's-
Frank Miller's book had guns in
And
Dark Knight
it
Returns.
had guns. He had
It
rubber
shot
bullets.
rubber bullets,
But
but
that's
rubber
still a
bullets.
gun.
And Brian said a thing. Brian said this that he said, "Oh, but but I thought they weren't sticking to the comics. They're making it Nolan's verse or whatever." And I said, Frank Miller's he's a major consultant for this film. I mean, you could see that he had input on the bat suit. I mean,
Oh,
it looks
yeah.
like Dark Knight Returns. The tank is not a tumblerized tank, and I told him that. I was like, man, he's like, I was like, the Batmobile in Dark Knight Returns looks, was Tumbler-esque, and he said it was the tank, and I said no. Carrie Kelly asks Batman
yeah.
what it is, and
Batmobile.
Batman tells her Robin called it the Batmobile. So I told him, I was like, that was the Batmobile. So and then he's like, but he didn't respond to it. But I mean, because he's already says this movie sucks. But
I
he's
think
made
this
up his
movie's
mind.
going to be amazing.
I think it looks awesome. I like it. I think it does look more like the Tumbler than I was hoping for. I was hoping for something a little different.
I
But
think it looks.
I think it looks cool.
I think it looks like a nice balance between other Batmobiles that we've seen cinematically and the Tumbler. The Tumbler was probably the most popular just because of it was in the Nolan movies.
And it was so different.
And it was so different. I didn't really care for the Tumbler as a Batmobile personally, but I think that this is a nice balance between that and like the Batmobile you saw in like 1989
I
Batman.
would have liked to see something a little bit more sport car-ish. You know what I mean? Something maybe not as much as the Tim Burton, and then the Joel Schumacher, but maybe I don't know. Like, I get that the whole off-road-esque and go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I like that because I think in the big screen, in any type of cinematic shoots, that just opens up so much more for like the shots that can be taken, the scenes that can be used. If you have a vehicle that can go anywhere, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I like it. I fucking there's other than the fact that it does look very Tumbler-ish. It looks sportier than the Tumbler-ish or Tumbler, but it still has that feel. That's the only complaint I have about it, which is a very small complaint in my part. I like it. I think the guns are fucking awesome. I'm cool with it.
What do you think, Topher?
I think it looked interesting. I think it looked badass. I think it looked menacing. I thought it looked cool. I don't necessarily think it looks like classic Batmobiles, but it looks a lot more like the tools that Batman was using in Dark Knight Returns. So, I think it's fine, and I think what it's really going to come down to is whether or not it fits with the other scenery in the movie. You can't have you can't have him driving like a modified Corvette Batmobile looking thing if it doesn't fit the rest of the scenery. If it doesn't fit the sets, you can't use it. And so there's two things. There's got to be a thematic style with the rest of the costumes and the set pieces and the locations that they're filming, and there has to be a functionality component. We don't know what the story is. We don't know what the plot is. Like it very well may be that he needs some sort of armored tank kind of vehicle. Like it's going to come down to
he's going to fight Superman, and that's going to be enough that he's wearing his like bat armor.
right. And so they're going for a more heavily fortified Batman look. This isn't going to be the sleek light Batmobile. This is going to be the big hulking tough armored Batmobile. And so, in that respect, I think it's fine. I think it's going to work, and I think you really can't pass judgment on how it fits until you see the rest of them. Until you see what it's fitting in with. And
Okay.
and we haven't gotten to that point yet. So,
I want to interrupt you real quick on that. I just seen a video. I've seen it before. I had it pulled up, and it just made me think of it. There's a scene on Batman v Superman where there's someone has leaked footage of the Batmobile. It says doing a burnout, but it's not really doing a burnout. It shows two buildings, and there's a street in between, and it shows a car. You hear the engine roaring, and then it like spins around and like does like a little. The tail spins out as it takes around the corner, and it looks like a sports car kind of. It's here. I'll send you guys.
No, don't send it over
You
to
for
me.
yourself.
It'll pop up on my recording.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll check that out later. I tend to agree with what Topher is saying, in regards to like we can judge this for face value on what we think it looks like and how we think it looks, but there's really no way to say if it's going to be good in the movie or not yet, because we don't know what the rest of the movie is going to look like.
the vehicle itself looks cool. If you saw this vehicle in any other movie and they were filming, any other movie about, a similar plot line and you didn't attach Batman's name to it and you said, "Hey, what do you guys think of this vehicle we drew up for this movie?" Everybody would go, "That looks badass." And so I don't think that you can just say that it looks like crap and it's terrible. Like I understand the whole Batman no guns rule, but that's never been a point in the movies. They've never.
There's also been multiple occasions in the comic books where Batman has used guns. It's not like it doesn't happen.
I mean, there's not multiple, but every time it happens, though, they call attention to it and they explain it, or they, like they make a point of talking about it. So like they put a gun on this, but to your point, the old Batman movies, there were guns on the Batwing, there were guns on the Batcycle, there were guns on the Bat this, the Bat that, and the Bat over there. Like there were guns on the vehicles, and no one said, "Oh, this is terrible." No one went back and watched it when like, "Oh my God, Batman had guns. This was terrible." Like I just, it's mounted on the vehicle. It could be for. He doesn't use guns. He will not hold a gun and point it at someone and pull the trigger and at people. But
Which he's done that before.
He has the Batarang, which fires like bat grappling hooks from his bat belt and bat this. The point is like it's a projectile delivery device. Like he's not putting a gun to people's head and pulling a trigger and shooting people. He has a projectile weapon mounted on his vehicle, that could be for any number of purposes, and I don't think that even necessarily violates the whole spirit of no guns. And until he takes that Batmobile and starts mowing people down with real bullets, like I don't think there's cause for alarm.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that it's the real ultimate line for Batman is that he doesn't kill people, because like I said, there have been both in the movies and in the cinematic, there's been times when guns have been used, whether it's on a vehicle or him actually holding a gun and shooting. I mean, look at the movie that, if you look at the movie that this, or I'm sorry, the book that this movie is predicated around partially, Dark Knight Returns, Batman has a gun in that book. Mm-hmm. Batman has a hunting rifle in that book.
He tries to take out Two-Face with it.
He tries to shoot a person with it. So there's, clearly all the people that are getting all ass hurt about the fact that there are guns on the new Batmobile are just knee-jerk reactioning and not even giving this movie a chance to succeed. They just want to condemn it prior to release based on what? Based on their opinions of other movies? Or I don't know. Because a person that we work with brought up a very valid point. A ton of people hated on the idea of Heath Ledger as Joker. A ton of people before that movie came out. Now, he's probably known as the best Joker ever done cinematically. So, where do you draw the line? Like, why can't this be a good movie? So what if there's been bad movies in the past? This is a completely different movie with completely different people, completely different special effects artists, completely different cast, completely different crew, everything. So I think that ultimately it boils down to the fact that you just have to give the movie a damn chance to succeed before you just go out and say that it's going to be shit. That's my 2 cents.
I mean, same thing with Michael Keaton. Everyone said Michael Keaton wasn't going to be a good Batman. They were bitching about Mr. Mom. You know what I mean? Like, obviously Michael
exactly
Keaton proved that he could be a fucking awesome Batman.
There is a bright side in all of this. When was the last time you heard somebody go, Ben Affleck's going to be Batman?
That's a good point. People have gotten away from hating on Batfleck, but it's like every last thing that gets announced about this movie or comes out about this movie, so many people have problems with it.
Batman is an extremely long-running character, and he's probably the most popular character in comics, hands down. And so you're gonna have every asshole who's ever even looked at a comic, or thought about watching a cartoon based off of a comic, is going to have an opinion on what this needs to be. And I just think, there's going to be so much snap judgment, and I'm not, I just don't think it's fair to completely judge it before it comes out. There are definitely things that, criticisms that can be levied, and there are some things I'm concerned about. Like, my big thing here is DC's tendency to want to have all their properties be separate. Like, oh, we're not doing a shared universe. This is going to be its own thing. But then every single one of those, they bring in like 80 million characters. And then there's this confusion, like with Flash right now. Is he going to be, is part of this, part of that? Like, they've got Titans coming out. Nightwing is going to be probably the main character of that. Well, does that mean he's not going to be in Gotham? Does that mean that they can't, ever use him in a movie? Is there gonna, when they do Justice League, are they gonna leave Flash out of it because he's in the TV show and they're not gonna use the guy from the TV show? Like, my biggest complaint is that they're taking all these characters and they're trying to leave them all separate, and then they use everybody other's characters in them because, like, oh, it'll be cool to have this person appear, and then you've got like 7 different versions of them, and it's confusing as fuck. And I don't know that they're doing all the characters justice, in all this, but I don't think you can single out something like, the Batmobile and say that this is going to be the reason that everything sucks. So I think the Batmobile is going to be cool. I'm still.
Well, I also think what I was saying about the Batmobile too on that video is it kind of doesn't look like the same Batmobile that we're seeing pictures of either.
So there might be multiple Batmobiles too.
There might be multiple Batmobiles.
That's
which would make sense, because if he's supposedly, an older Bruce Wayne, been in the game for a while, I'm sure he's got newer stuff, he's got older stuff, he might have upgraded some of his Batmobiles along the way.
He's
I
got the
don't think
Batmobile configured for this situation, the other Batmobile for this.
Yeah,
situation.
exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You might run into some of that. We might see multiple Batmobiles. That's a good point that we really haven't talked about.
Like, there's a reason there's a Batmobile, a Bat Tank, a Bat Copter, a Bat Cycle, a
Right.
Bat,
Right.
a Bat Wing, a Bat.
And we
Bat
already
boat.
know there's multiple.
Oh, we got
And there's a Bat Megatron
yeah,
over
we
there.
got
And there's
Megatron
a-
Pirate back again. But so my question is, if they end up going through with the Justice League movie, okay, do you think that they will bring in Ryan Reynolds to play Green Lantern?
No, not at all. I think they have disavowed themselves of that movie.
I don't think that movie was that bad, personally. I like the movie.
It wasn't necessarily terrible, but it didn't get great reviews, and it didn't go over very well. And they have basically, DC and Warner Brothers have basically said, no, this is separate. This is not going to be it. And if you look at everything they're doing now, the whole way more serious, darker and edgier, Superman and,
Yeah, it
and
doesn't make
Batman,
much sense
like
for him.
they are not going to bring in the comic, the comedy almost kids movie that reminded me more of The Mask than of a superhero movie, Green Lantern, and so I think they're going to want to establish something much more serious for that role if when they end up bringing it in. So no, I think the chance of Ryan Reynolds appearing as the Green Lantern ever again is about zero.
I would rather see him as a Wade Wilson or Wade Wilson.
Yeah,
than
I
a,
want
Yeah,
to
I
see
would
them.
too. I
want to see them finally greenlight the Deadpool project. Did you guys see the footage of that?
yes.
Yeah.
The test footage.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic!
it looks awesome. It looked really
Fantastic.
awesome. All right. Well, there's lots of what ifs still looming out there that we'll just have to explore in weeks to come. That's about it for this week. I'm Fox 2. We got Pirate
See you guys.
and Topher.
See you guys next week, hopefully.